Welcome to Formula One Paddock Pass, your pre-race edition for the 2018 Singapore Grand Prix, and it is wonderful to be back here under the lights of Singapore. What a couple of weeks it's been since the Italian Grand Prix in Monza. So much news to go through. Of course, the biggest news of all is that Charles Leclerc will race for Ferrari in 2019. Kimi Raikkonen has signed with Sauber for 2 years, taking him back to the team with which he started his Formula One journey many moons ago. The big question now is what happens to Stoffel Vandoorne, as Lando Norris is also confirmed at McLaren. What also happens to Esteban Ocon, given that it doesn't look very likely that he will be continuing with Force India. And yeah, the Mercedes-backed seats and the possibilities for him in the sport narrow by the day. We'll come to all of that in time. We'll start though with the man who won last time out in Monza, Lewis Hamilton. He's had a very busy couple of weeks, notably going over to China to launch his new fashion line in collaboration with Tommy Hilfiger, and then doing New York Fashion Week. A little bit of a different fortnight then for Lewis, preparing him to come here for Singapore in a very different way, I think, to most other F1 drivers. On the racetrack, obviously your results are tangible. They are just, they're black and white, but in something creative, there's always an opinion, whether it's music or fashion. Is that quite nerve-wracking for the first time, putting something that you've come up with, that you've created in front of people for them to judge?
Definitely is, especially when you've yeah, it definitely is. I mean, naturally in my career I've been a part of projects and campaigns where I've had nothing to do with them, and you just have to stand there and you have no connection to it, so it doesn't matter. But to be so heavily involved in something and to see it come out, and yeah, of course you're nervous of what people are going to think, how people are going to respond to it. But honestly, it's been the best. So happy with the response. The response has been far better than I could have dreamed. When you've got Justin Bieber posting about it, when you've got people asking, I've got people that are doing music videos asking for the collection. You've got, you got rappers and models and different kind of celebrities and just people in general sort of life wearing it. And today I was at a fan signing, and there was a couple of people wearing the tops, so it's traveling slowly, and I really appreciate all that support.
Probably talk about racing a little bit. Monza was a huge result for you guys coming here. Start of the flyways to the end of the season. Can you hope to maintain that momentum?
I can hope. Hope is it's probably the most powerful thing I think us as humans hold. Just going to work hard to try and. It's going to be very tough. These next races are going to be very tough. There's still a lot of points available. Ferrari have obviously had the upper hand performance-wise, but as a team collectively we've outperformed them. So I'm hopeful that we can do it more, but we come into the race here, for example, it's a downforce circuit. Ferrari naturally should have the upper hand, but maybe a lot of work has been going on back at the factory. The guys are working so hard, so maybe just this weekend, maybe we'll be closer than we have in the past years.
Now, we've talked to a Mercedes world champion in Lewis Hamilton. Let's talk to somebody who I think we all assumed is a champion in waiting, Esteban Ocon, part of the Mercedes Young Driver program, and yet ironically that Young Driver program that has helped him get to Formula One now stands in the way potentially of his continued presence in the sport. More than one team has said that they won't touch Esteban Ocon for next year because he is tied still to Mercedes. What's the point in putting in the time and the effort and the money to run him, to help him develop as a racing driver, just to lose him further down the line? It's an odd state of affairs, isn't it, where Ferrari have invested in youth and given that chance to Charles Leclerc, and Mercedes opted to stay with Valtteri Bottas, who is, as we know, an incredibly able driver. Is he the champion of the future that we believe Esteban Ocon to be? Perhaps that's a question for Mercedes. Anyway, the questions, as we can put them today, to Esteban Ocon over what is an uncertain future and a mystifying one, given the raw potential that exists within that young man. During the week, social media posting from you, which a lot of people have taken to mean you won't be racing in Formula One next year. It was almost a farewell message for the sport. Is that as you see it, or are people taking that to a conclusion that isn't yet decided?
No, it's not the case yet. Of course, we are not in an easy situation at the moment. I don't know what I will do next year so far. yeah, I had to, explain that. That's the way I felt at the moment, seeing, all my rivals getting top seats, getting cars to fight for podiums and victories, and I still don't know what I will do next year. So it's not an easy situation, but yeah, I will, overcome that.
Obviously, you owe a lot to Mercedes to be in the sport in the first place, being a part of that young driver program. Is that young driver program now holding you back?
I don't think so. I think, I'm also here thanks to Mercedes. They have helped me to arrive here in Formula One and to be the driver I am now. Of course, I'm disappointed with how things have turned out. It looks like it's not only results and not only what you do on track, but also outside of the track. So that's what disappoints me at the moment. And I'm trying to push as hard as I can, and we'll find a way.
A lot of people think Williams' seat might be on the cards for you next year, if not possibly a third driver role. Which would you prefer if it was one or the other?
Well, I can't say anything about this. I don't know what will happen, but we'll see. At the moment I'm racing with the team. I have still plenty of races to do here, and we are here in Singapore. I'm focused on that. Obviously, I'm still talking to see what's the best option for me for the future, and we're trying to work the best for my future year.
You're gutted about this, aren't you?
Sorry?
Gutted.
Yeah, I'm disappointed with the situation for sure. We've been in a great situation a couple of months ago, and there was everything, to be happy, and we arrive here with this situation. But that's not. I will keep pushing, and that's not why I will be down. I will keep pushing hard, and even if I'm not there next year, I will push, and I will be back.
Yeah, quite difficult actually. I think hearing from Esteban there about his chances of staying in the sport. What chances this weekend? Some wet running. Of course, we had the wet race last year. If Esteban is to continue in Formula One, will it be down here at Williams? Of course, we know there's the Mercedes connection. A lot of people think George Russell might end up here as their second driver next season. As I said to Esteban, would it be Williams? Will it be a third driver role? He doesn't know yet. Might this be the berth that we see Ocon? I don't know. There's every chance, as we had understood it earlier this year, that Esteban doesn't see out the season with Force India, given the fact that the new investors in the team are led by Lance Stroll's father. The talk over that has quietened down somewhat over recent weeks, leading us to think that it might not happen until next season. Certainly for Esteban to be booted out before the end of the year would seem even harsher, wouldn't it? Maybe. Anyway, here is Lance Stroll, who had, let's be honest, a great weekend in Monza. Qualified in the top 10, finished strongly in the top 10. Really good return to form for the guy, where he took his best ever qualifying performance and position 12 months beforehand. Wonderful race in Italy for the young Canadian.
Lance, great result last race in Monza. Of course, this is a very, very different circuit. How are you going to approach it?
It's just like all the other races. It's a very different kind of circuit, compared to Monza. But the approach remains the same. Build up to it. It's a very technical track, so from the driver's point of view, it's important to bank laps and and soak up as much information as possible over the practice sessions, and we'll go from there. Last year, there was a bit of rain and a few things that mixed things up, so hopefully the same, and we could have an exciting race ahead of us.
And of course, we can't escape the heat and humidity here in Singapore. That obviously adds an extra pressure on you as a driver.
For sure, it's extremely demanding, both physically and mentally. But it's a good challenge for us drivers.
Looking forward, the talk of a team switch mid-season seems to have calmed down a bit. Is that something you think may still happen this season, or are we going to see it next season?
Who knows? I'm just going to take it race by race, weekend by weekend, but we'll see what happens.
So, to Stoffel Vandoorne, a multiple champion in junior categories, and a guy who, you've got to say, probably hasn't ever had the opportunity that he deserves to show his full talent in Formula One. Are these the final races of Stoffel Vandoorne's career in Formula One? Will he take a year out? Will he come back? Will he go to IndyCar? So many questions about this guy's future. So nobody better to answer them really than Stoffel Vandoorne. Last races with McLaren, are they your last races in Formula One?
It's hard to tell. As concerning this year, I'll try to make it a positive end of the year. It's definitely not been 2 easy seasons with McLaren, probably their worst in history. But this is the situation it's been, and it's a shame it's been like that. I would have preferred to have had a proper chance, but sometimes things don't turn out the way it is, and trying to make the most of it. So. Whatever the future holds at the moment is, it's hard to tell. There's obviously not a million options for next year in Formula One. The seats are closing down day after day, let's say. But until it's over, you got to keep believing and keep trying. So we'll wait and see.
It's been your dream your whole life. Are you disillusioned at all with either the sport or McLaren in the way the last 2 years have panned out?
I'm obviously disappointed with how. The last 2 years have been. I've probably been at McLaren in at the worst time, let's say, and I wish I could have had a better chance, let's say. I'm still a very quick driver, and I know what I've achieved in the past, and I'm still that same driver. So, sometimes it's out of your control, and obviously in the past couple of weeks there have been a lot of things changing in Formula One, a lot of strange moves in the driver market, and it's it seems like some of the other drivers as well might not have a chance next year. So it's a shame to see that.
Maybe a hard question, I don't know. Kevin Magnussen at McLaren, the guys in the team could see what he was doing in comparison to Fernando, but got the boot. They know what you're doing in comparison to Fernando, you've got the boot. How come the young talent that's being promoted isn't being backed?
I think you got to ask McLaren. It's hard to tell. Obviously, Kevin, has been through this situation himself, and I think he really benefited from a fresh start. And I feel a little bit the same, to be honest. It's been 2 difficult years, and not having had the tools to really fight for anything. I'm trying to make the most out of what is left this season, and then actually looking forward to a fresh start.
Fred Vasseur knows what you can do, doesn't he?
I think a lot of people in the paddock know what I can do, and I'm, like I said, I'm still the same talented driver as I was before. I think I just need to be in the right environment, and then I'm pretty sure I can deliver.
Now, we've spoken about the likes of Ocon and Vandoorne that don't have a seat next year, but what about a team that has 2 empty seats for next year? Toro Rosso have quite the decision to make on their drivers for next season. Pierre Gasly is off to Red Bull. Will Brendan Hartley be back for another year, or will both drivers be replaced? We know that Danny Kvyat has been approached. Sebastian Buemi's here this weekend. We saw him earlier in the paddock. Of course, he is Toro Rosso and Red Bull Racing's reserve driver. May there be a call-up for him. It's not been an easy year for Brendan Hartley. Of course, a guy more used to driving in endurance over the last couple of seasons hasn't found that switch to F1 as easy as some might have thought, but has had... I do talk too much. Sorry, Franz, he knows. Okay, fine, I'll shut up then. Here's Brendan. Looking forward to this one?
I am actually. I love street tracks. Never been to Singapore before. Everyone's told me it's one of the toughest on the calendar. I feel fit and healthy and ready for it, and I think the good thing is it's the same for everyone out there. And I can't wait actually. And I guess I should also mention it's been a really strong race for Toro Rosso in the past, so I think we all see it as a big opportunity this weekend.
Your endurance pass, 2 hours should be a walk in the park, surely.
Well, we didn't normally stay more than 2 hours in the car at one time. We had a little break in between, but yeah, I've done some hot races in the past. I'm used to that, but all the other drivers are pretty race fit as well. But yeah, I think it's a cool track, and I spent a bit of time on the simulator last week, and lots of challenges, and I think it can be a big opportunity for us this weekend. Obviously, I need a bit of luck on my side. It hasn't been going that well recently, and not always in my control. But I've been in this situation before. I've been through tough times, and I know it can turn around very quickly, and I can come out on the other side even stronger.
Before we get to that bit, the expectations that you spoke about earlier for the team, obviously a very rich history here. Does that put undue pressure on you guys, the fact that there have been such good results in the past? Because 1 year to the next isn't necessarily an indicator of anything.
Yeah, you're right. But even if we take the tracks this season, on paper this one should be a positive one for us. there's pressure every week. So of course, maybe from the team's point of view, we do have some higher expectations this weekend. But I can promise you there's pressure every race. So, yeah.
Toro Rosso is one of the only teams with 2 free seats for next year. How confident are you're going to be in one of them?
I mean, I'm confident of the job I'm doing behind the scenes, working with the team. Things haven't gone my way, but I'm still confident I can turn it around. Not a lot of discussions are taking place because at the moment I'm just focused one race at a time. That's the best I know how to deal with it, and that's what's going to get the best out of me. So, I mean, I have a contract which has certain clauses and certain options for next year. So it's really just about me doing a good job in the car, and I know I can do it and can turn things around.
And so to Renault and to Carlos Sainz, who had a phenomenal race here last year, of course, finishing P4. Is that because this track suits Toro Rosso, or is it a track that suits Carlos Sainz? This and much more you're about to find out.
Carlos, celebrating your 75th race start this weekend here in Singapore, where last year you, of course, recorded your best ever finish in P4. You must be suited to this track.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me. I didn't know it was my 75th Grand Prix, but yeah, great venue to celebrate it. After the result of last year, obviously, looking forward to it with a different team this time, and after a full year of experience with this team, I really want to put together a strong weekend.
It's such a physical track and very different to the last race in Monza. How do you approach it?
Yeah, it's probably the other end. This one, I think Monza is the shortest race of the calendar. This one is the longest in terms of time. Monza is probably the easiest in terms of physical. This one's probably the most demanding. And you need to like the heat. You need to like the humidity. If not, on the car, you normally suffer quite a lot.
And of course, there's a championship battle going on between you and Haas. Looking towards this race and the rest of the season, where will you be strong and where might you struggle a little bit?
Well, I hope we can be strong here. And then the rest of the tracks, probably Haas should have the edge over us, but we should be closer to them than what we were in the last 2 races, where they were way too stronger than us.
And last time out at Monza, Max Verstappen was, looking pretty good, but unfortunately his contact with Valtteri Bottas gave him a 5-second penalty. He wasn't that happy with it, but says today he has moved on from all of that as we arrive back here in Singapore, a track that hasn't been too kind to him over the years, particularly last year with that Ferrari sandwich and stramash down at turn 1. This is, though, a track at which we expect Red Bull to be competitive. Every year we come here, we expect them to be good. And particularly on the basis of looking at Monaco this season, the last proper out-and-out street track that we had, Red Bull were dominant. Max, of course, made the mistake in free practice, which led to him being on the back foot, starting way down the grid for the race itself because he had to obviously miss qualifying. So, but does the fact that the car looked so good in Monaco automatically mean that it's going to be good here? Or are there differences between the tracks that make it not quite the foregone conclusion we all assume it might be? The team was obviously very quick, very competitive in Monaco. When people look at one street circuit to another, do we take it as read that Red Bull will be competitive here, or are the circuits actually quite different?
Well, I think Monaco, that's always going to be the best for us. This one is second best, but there's still quite a bit of a straight line going on. So it's not that ideal, but yeah, we will be for sure a lot closer.
Do you think you can hope to get as far towards the front as you were last year?
It's going to be hard because I think our engine deficit is bigger than what it was last year around this time. But yeah, we'll for sure try to set up the car as good as possible.
Okay. Now, Esteban Ocon, your big rival in Formula 3, is looking at not having a seat for next year. Are you disappointed in that, having fought against him in the junior ranks? Would you like to see your rivals from junior formulas in a position where you can continue those fights into the future?
Well, at the end of the day, they will always end up there because the old guys at one point have to leave, so somebody has to fill the seat. So for sure, maybe next year is not looking that positive for him, but I'm very confident that after that, there are a lot of opportunities again.
And are you relishing next year Charles being in the Ferrari and obviously Lewis still at Mercedes, you guys going head-to-head hopefully for a title?
Well, I hope, we have the package to do that next year, but we'll have to wait and see.
Now, one of the best bits of the Singapore Grand Prix weekend is, of course, the concerts that go on around the side of the race this year. Liam Gallagher's playing on Saturday. Very excited about that. Already saw Noel Gallagher this year, so get the two for this season. Always been a massive Oasis fan, so to see Liam, hopefully I'll be able to see at least one song, which would be good, on the back of the huge success of his album this year, As You Were. Anyway, let's talk to Haas F1 team's own rock and roll star, hoping for a supersonic weekend, Kevin Magnussen. Tell us about the car and the floor and all things to do with that. Do you know anything?
We have a new floor this weekend. That should be an improvement. So looking forward to trying that. And I think this year we are more positive about this race than we were last year. We've got a dedicated kind of high downforce package this year that we didn't quite have last year. So we'll see. I think we're hoping to still be able to fight the Renaults and the Force Indias, McLarens maybe even, and Toro Rosso as well. That especially Toro Rosso and McLaren have kind of showed good pace on high downforce circuits. Toro Rosso more so, but we hope we can stay in front of them and continue our fight for fourth in the constructors.
Is it a hope or an expectation that the team can finish in fourth place? I mean, are you allowing yourselves to believe that it could be possible?
There's no reason to think it's not possible, because we can look at the statistics and see the pace compared to the other teams, and we are a match, so we just need to outperform them and make less mistakes and fight them. And I think in terms of capability and in terms of the car that we have against those teams, I think it's on par or even better.
And so we finish with the biggest story of the week. Of course, the news that Charles Leclerc will drive for Ferrari in 2019 and Kimi Raikkonen will no longer be a Ferrari driver. He's had, of course, a glorious career here. He remains Ferrari's last Formula One world champion, taking the plaudits back in 2007. He's had a glittering and glorious career here at Ferrari. But, of course, he's no longer the spring chicken he once was. The future is Charles Leclerc. So we'll talk to Kimi first about his move to Sauber, what has motivated him for this 2-year deal moving forwards, because we always question his motivation, of course. I don't think that needs to be questioned anymore, does it, really? Back to where it all started for Kimi Raikkonen, and I think, as you'll see, the potential there, the possibility for a renewed, invigorated Kimi Raikkonen into 2019 and 2020.
Well, obviously it's nice that it's happened to be a team that I started, but it's for sure it's not the reason why I went there. It's, we don't need to do favors to each other. I think we had a good solid run at that time, and it all worked out pretty well for both of us. So it's just happened to be that, and I think we can do good things there, and but time will tell. Obviously we'll have some work to be done, but I'm up for it, and I think the all people there are really up for it, so it will be interesting to see.
Fred's setting up a really good team there. Simone Resta obviously is going to be working on the car. What are your expectations? What are your hopes for next year?
Not really expectations. I think we will, once we finish this year, we start figuring things out, and we'll see what we get, and go from there and do the normal stuff, and see what happens. So
excited?
I'm excited. It's different thing. I think I'm interested in those things. So we'll see what we get.
And so, to the man of the moment, the man in all of the stories, the guy who has been riding headlines all year, I say all year, for every year, whether he was being F2 champion or GP3 champion or karts. It's barely 2 minutes since he was in a go-kart, and now, next year, he's going to be racing for Ferrari. Quite the incredible story, quite the incredible talent, quite the incredible young guy. Charles Leclerc is writing his own story in Formula One, and the next chapter looks like it's going to be the most incredible of all. He will be the second youngest Ferrari driver in history in 2019.
it's a dream since child. I've worked very hard and starting in racing for this moment, to have it so early in my Formula 1 career feels absolutely amazing, and I can't wait to start this challenge.
When did you find out, and what was your reaction?
In between Saturday and Sunday, Mauricio called me, and well, my reaction was crazy. I mean, I could not really believe it at one point, and you wake up the day after and you just hope it was not only a dream, but yeah, it was definitely extremely special.
Obviously, you sent some tweets out during the week thanking and paying sort of credit to a lot of people along the way that have helped you on your route.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I tweeted about two persons, especially, which were Jules and my father, that has helped massively, and obviously their dreams was to see me. My father was to see me here. Jules was to race in the Scuderia Ferrari, and I'm extremely happy to have done it. It's a way to thank him and my father for everything they've done.
And what's the plan for next year? Is it to go in to learn off Sebastian, or is it to go in, compete and beat Sebastian?
Well, I mean, obviously it will be to try and do the best job possible in that car. Then to be next to Sebastian will be an amazing opportunity for me. He's an amazing driver with a lot of experience, and I definitely have a lot of things to learn from him. So it will be very interesting, but as all the time, the target will be the same. It will be to do the best job in the car, so yeah.
So that is your lot from Paddock Pass, folks. Hope you've enjoyed it. And on the back of Monza, an amazing weekend where Ferrari do, we believe, have the pace, they do have the car, but Mercedes are coming back strong. As Lewis Hamilton says, it's not like the guys have just been twiddling their thumbs. They're working on the car, working on giving them better performance from the high downforce circuits such as this, which has been their Achilles heel. It's going to be a great weekend. I'm very excited. Will Red Bull be able to get themselves up into the mix as they did last year and as they did in Monaco? Can that be that kind of fly in the ointment of the Mercedes-Ferrari battle, which is getting so intense at the front of the field? Will Kimi Raikkonen, now that he knows he's not racing for Ferrari next year, is he going to be a lone wolf? Is he going to drive for himself like he did in Monza? Can Sebastian hope that Kimi will help him as Valtteri Bottas did for Lewis Hamilton last time out in Monza? It's going to be a great run-in for the end of the season. We call it the run-in for the end of the season because now that these flyaways are happening, they just tick themselves off and it motors towards the finale in Abu Dhabi. We'll be there before you know it. But for now, it's going to be a great weekend here. There's weather. There's always weather. There's weather in the air. There's a chance of rain throughout the weekend. Might that throw something into the mix too? Can't wait for it. Join us for everything over the weekend, folks. But for now, from Paddock Pass, that's your lot.